Okay, welcome back. We're in First Samuel. I'll be picking up in chapter 7, but I just wanted to mention another thing. I have two more lists I want to go over before moving on with this. Um, the first list is all about how King David, is a type of Christ. So we have that he's a shepherd. He slays a giant who as a youth, so he's a young lad and he slays an enemy giant. Okay, so of course we know that's a type. He's anointed as king as a young man or maybe a teenager. He's pretty young, but he doesn't reign until much later. I don't know how much later, but there's a gap. In the meantime, he's in hiding, and he's hiding from his enemy Saul, who's the other king at the time and who's trying to kill him. So he's being persecuted by that king, and he's in hiding during this whole time. And then he finally takes the throne and reigns in Jerusalem. So there's a gap in between. I mean, he's still young when he takes the throne, but there's years in between. So I don't know exactly if it's like 5 years or 10 years, but there's a while in between. Anyway, another thing about that is, yeah, he, well, that's another item. I'll get there. Okay, so he goes in caves while he's hiding. So to me, that just seems to be a type of like burial and coming out again in a tomb, kind of. I mean, just the visuals in that way. Another thing is he wants to build the house of God. So it's actually his son who ends up doing it. And that's another type I'll get to. But, like that would be a symbol of the church in that case, which Jesus built. David is surrounded by his enemies. And that's what so much of the Psalms are about. I'm surrounded by my enemies. They want to do this and that. So, so many of the Psalms were written by David, writing about how his enemies are surrounding him. And it's, of course, what's going on in his life in different ways at different times in his life. But it's a total type also of, Jesus. So then he has victory in the end. So there's that. He takes refuge in God. So, of course. And then we have David and Saul are a type of, well, David of Jesus and Saul of the Antichrist and devil. I'll get to that. Then we have he's a king, so shepherd, he's a king, he's a prophet, and somewhere along the way, he is in the role of a priest. I forgot where that comes up, but I have it written down. We'll find it, don't worry. Okay, he's hunted by Saul as the enemy, and then we have this thing. See, Samuel anoints Saul as king first. Then it looks good, but it turns out to be a bad choice. And this is all meant to be in a certain way for a certain reason. And so he gets more and more unwise, this Saul. And David turns out to be pretty wise. It shows up in here a lot. But Samuel goes and anoints David as king secretly. So, well, he's still pretty young. He's still a shepherd, and he's a young kind of I would think, a boy almost. He's anointed as king, and like I said, it takes a while till he reigns, so it's a type. But the thing is, now we have two kings who are anointed. And David doesn't want to get rid of Saul and take over as king, although he could very easily have eliminated Saul multiple times, like as the enemy, but he doesn't do it. He waits until God's appointed time, because he keeps saying he doesn't want to harm the Lord's anointed, meaning the king, Um, so that's it. Like the time had not yet come, and this is also all. And then later, he is again anointed, David, and takes the throne as king. So it all comes, but he waits the time, the amount of time he has to wait. So this is a type too. I mean, Jesus was anointed as, you know, king and all that back in the New Testament. Some people don't realize that's part of what was going on, but that's what it was. I'm sure there's another one later before he actually reigns during the millennium. But the devil was also anointed. Remember, he's called the anointed angel that covers. And so there's an appointed time for all these things. And when that time's up, that's when Jesus comes and, sets up the kingdom and reigns. So these things are designated by God. Anyway, this is mentioned about the devil in Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 11 to 19, if you want to check that out. But anyway, so that's it. So David is a huge type of Christ, King David, and in so many ways. And anyway, I really like David when you read about him. I like this guy. Anyway, now, and apparently the women liked him, so there's some interesting stories in here coming up too. But okay, and now next on the list is Solomon as a type of Christ. So wait a minute here. Yeah, we got all this. Oh, so glad something was making me turn back before I go on. Here, wait, just hold that thought. Let me put this here, and I want to go over this verse real quick. This is way over here in, it's almost there. First Chronicles. One more page. Yes, First Chronicles 10, 13 to 14. Is that the one? Oh, this is that thing. Okay, there was this wonderful thing. I guess I have to read it later. Okay, this will come up anyway, but okay. Okay, back to the Solomon thing here. Oh, it's over here. Okay. All right, the other thing will come up. Yeah. Okay, so Solomon is a type of Christ in multiple ways. He's also a king, and he gets to such a level, such a height as king over there in Israel. It becomes famous like all over the land, I mean, he gets more power than David had. It's really the height of that empire or whatever you want to call it. But, there's a lot of majesty and splendor associated with Solomon and his kingdom there. And he has a lot of wisdom, that's famous. And he's the one who ends up building the house of God. The temple gets built under Solomon. And he has the resources. So it all works out. And this is interesting, this is where he's also a type and all that, but this as well, where he builds the house of God as the son, not the father, but the son builds the house of God. So that's a type, like, Jesus as the son builds the church, which is the house of God. Now, anyway, he's king-elect. When same kind of thing happens here. David had said to his wife Bathsheba, who bore Solomon, that Solomon is the one who would take over the throne after David passes away. And David was getting ready to pass away. And he had a lot of sons too, and one of his sons was named Adonijah. Adonijah decides to get sneaky, and he wants to slip in as king, thinking David is on his deathbed. He won't notice anything. Nobody, notices anything. It wasn't authorized. He just wanted to slip in there as king, this Adonijah. Well, Solomon's mother, Bathsheba, gets wind of this, and she's like, wait a minute here. David said, my son, Solomon, our son Solomon would reign. So she goes over to David and brings this up. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's Solomon for sure. So she tells him, oh, okay. So they square this away and anoint Solomon as king. So Solomon gets anointed as king, and Adonijah gets the shaft. But he, it gets dramatic, and we'll get to that. But it's kind of funny. But he thinks he's being slick, and he gets nowhere with it. It's just a bit embarrassing for him in the end, because he doesn't get to be king after all, and he has this big party. But this is a type of he is a type of the Antichrist trying to slip in before the Messiah returns and reign, right? So he's king-elect. In this case, it's Solomon is a type of this, see, and Adonijah with Jesus and the Antichrist. So with the fake kingdom versus the real kingdom during the millennium, yeah, keep your eye on that, okay? Anyway, so I talked about that in other videos, but anyway, so there's that type, and then we have down here, he's identified as in the line of the Messiah. That's the verse I was looking for. So it is in First Chronicles. The other one is another one I'll get to when that comes up. So this is First Chronicles. Okay, 17, and it is 11 to 13. So let me read that real quick, just so you see. And then that's it for the lists. And it shall be when your days are fulfilled. So this is God's covenant with David. Okay, so anyway. And it shall be when your days are fulfilled, when you must go to be with your fathers, that I will set up your seed after you, who will be of your sons, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build me a house, and I will establish his throne forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. And I will not take my mercy away from him, as I took it from him who was before you. And I will establish him in my house and in my kingdom forever, and his throne shall be established forever. Okay, so he's talking to David about Solomon and the line after him, but it's very messianic in a sense, like it's really pointing down to Jesus, reigning forever on that throne. The line will go through Solomon, though, David, Solomon, and then it goes down the line. And one of them goes through Nathan. So one of them is Mary and one is Joseph. So we don't really know who's who, but it's okay. Anyway. Yeah, so this was Nathan, God telling David through Nathan, this whole thing. And that's it about that. So I wanted to mention that. This is actually 14, isn't it? Yeah, why do I have 13? Okay. Okay, now we will jump back over to 1 Samuel. Okay, so we have this, yeah, okay. chapter 7, and I read through here. This was the thing about the ark being returned. Okay, so here we go, moving on. So it was that the ark remained in Kirjath Jearim a long time. It was there 20 years. And all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. Then Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel, saying, if you return to the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths from among you, and prepare your hearts for the Lord, and serve him only, and he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines. So the children of Israel put away the Baals and the Ashtoreths and served the Lord only. Okay, because that's how it has to be. And Samuel said, gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord for you. So they gathered together at Mizpah, drew water, and poured it out before the Lord. And they fasted that day and said there, we have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the children of Israel at Mizpah. Now when the Philistines heard that the children of Israel had gathered together at Mizpah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. I think they thought they were coming for war, but they weren't. Or maybe they were. Well, anyway. And when the children of Israel heard of it, they were afraid of the Philistines. So the children of Israel said to Samuel, do not cease to cry out to the Lord your God for us, that he may save us from the hand of the Philistines. So and Samuel took a suckling lamb and offered it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. Then Samuel cried out to the Lord for Israel, and the Lord answered him. Now as Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel. But the Lord thundered with a loud thunder upon the Philistines that day, so confused them that they were overcome before Israel. And the men of Israel went out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines and drove them back as far as below Beth-kar. Then Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shen, and called its name Ebenezer, saying, thus far the Lord has helped us. So the Philistines were subdued, and they did not come anymore into the territory of Israel. And the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. Then the cities which the Philistines had taken from Israel were restored to Israel, from Ekron to Gath, and Israel recovered its territory from the hands of the Philistines. Also there was peace between Israel and the Amorites. And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. He went from year to year on a circuit to Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, and judged Israel in all those places. But he always returned to Ramah, for his home was there. There he judged Israel, and there he built an altar to the Lord. Okay, so this is that part. Now, here we go, where Israel, they start wanting a king. This is where we get to Saul and all that. So chapter 8. Now it came to pass, when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba. But his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside after dishonest gain, took bribes, and perverted justice. So it's sad, but I wanted to mention this. I'm pretty sure Samuel was upright in all his ways, so he would have done the right thing in raising his sons. And it wasn't his fault. And sometimes that's just how it goes. And I see a lot of parents wanting to blame themselves. And it's if that's you, it's not your fault. Everybody has their own choice to make in life. You can do your best and it will still turn out that way sometimes. And the other way around too. The parents can be bad and the kid can turn out right and come to God and everything turns out real great. You never know. Okay. So then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, Look, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. But the thing displeased Samuel when they said, Give us a king to judge us. So Samuel prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to Samuel, Heed the voice of the people in all that they say to you, for they have not rejected you, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even to this day, with which they have forsaken me and served other gods. So they are doing to you also. Now, therefore, heed their voice. However, you shall solemnly forewarn them and show them the behavior of the king who will reign over them. So Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who asked him for a king. And he said, This will be the behavior of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for his own chariots to be his horsemen, and some will run before his chariots. He will appoint captains over his thousands and captains over his 50s, will set some to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and some to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers, cooks, and bakers. And he will take the best of your fields, your vineyards, and your olive groves, and give them to his servants. He will take 1/10 of your grain and your vintage and give it to his officers and servants. And he will take your male servants, your female servants, your finest young men, and your donkeys, and put them to his work. He will take 1/10 of your sheep, and you will be his servants. And you will cry out in that day because of your king whom you have chosen for yourselves, and the Lord will not hear you in that day. One time, so I'll take a little break here. One time, somebody made a good comparison between this and a lot of these pastors of the day who, want to set themselves up as king, and they oppress all the congregation and put them to work for them. And in the tithe, right? I mean, that's not for the New Testament church, but that's in the old system, which is over now. But they oppress everybody in all these ways. And I've talked about that in many videos before, but this is another comparison I heard somebody make, that this is what they're doing in this way. And they're not supposed to be a king now. We're all on an equal level now, and they don't want to acknowledge that. So if you read 1 Corinthians 14, verse 26, you'll see what I mean. I don't want to spend a day on that now, though, but okay. Moving on. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, No, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. They want to be like the nations, like the world. So I see that in here, but also God will use this. So anyway, and Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he repeated them in the hearing of the Lord. So the Lord said to Samuel, Heed their voice and make them a king. And Samuel said to the men of Israel, Every man go to his city. Okay. Then we have here, I'll read these two chapters. They go all together. So 9. Then there was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. And he had a choice and handsome son whose name was Saul. there was not a more handsome person than he among the children of Israel. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. So he was appealing to the eyes, okay? All right, now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost, and Kish said to his son Saul, "Please take one of the servants with you, and arise, go and look for the donkeys." So he passed through the mountains of Ephraim and through the land of Shalisha, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Shalem, and they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them. When they had come to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servant who was with him, "Come, let us return, lest my father cease caring about the donkeys and become worried about us." And he said to him, "Look now, there is in this city a man of God, and he is an honorable man. All that he says surely comes to pass. So let us go there. Perhaps he can show us the way that we should go." Then Saul said to his servant, "But look, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread in our vessels is all gone, and there is no present to bring to the man of God. What do we have?" And the servant answered Saul again and said, "Look, I have here at hand 1/4 of a shekel of silver. I will give that to the man of God to tell us our way. Formerly in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, he spoke thus, 'Come, let us go to the seer,' for he who is now called a prophet was formerly called a seer," like he would see, I guess, Then Saul said to his servant, "Well said, come, let us go." So they went to the city where the man of God was. As they went up the hill to the city, they met some young women going out to draw water, and said to them, "Is the seer here?" And they answered them and said, "Yes, there he is, just ahead of you. Hurry now, for today he came to the city, because there is a sacrifice of the people today on the high place. As soon as you come into the city, you will surely find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Now therefore go up, for about this time you will find him." So they went up to the city. As they were coming into the city, there was Samuel coming out toward them on his way up to the high place. Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear the day before Saul came, saying, "Tomorrow about this time I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him commander over my people Israel, that he may save my people from the hand of the Philistines, for I have looked upon my people, because their cry has come to me." So when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said to him, "There he is, the man of whom I spoke to you. This one shall reign over my people." Then Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate and said, "Please tell me, where is the seer's house?" Samuel answered Saul and said, "I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today, and tomorrow I will let you go and will tell you all that is in your heart. But as for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not be anxious about them, for they have been found. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on you and on all your father's house?" And Saul answered and said, "Am I not a Benjamite of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Why then do you speak like this to me?" So here we get this principle again, the least and the smallest, and this comes up again when they get to David. Okay, now Samuel took Saul and his servant and brought them into the hall and had them sit in the place of honor among those who were invited. There were about 30 persons, and Samuel said to the cook, "Bring the portion which I gave you, of which I said to you, set it apart." So the cook took up the thigh with its upper part and set it before Saul. And Samuel said, "Here it is, what was kept back. It was set apart for you. Eat." For until this time it has been kept for you, since I said I invited the people. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. When they had come down from the high place into the city, Samuel spoke with Saul on the top of the house. They arose early, and it was about the dawning of the day that Samuel called to Saul on the top of the house, saying, "Get up, that I may send you on your way." And Saul arose, and both of them went outside, he and Samuel. As they were going down to the outskirts of the city, Samuel said to Saul, "Tell the servants to go on ahead of us." And he went on. "But you stand here a while, that I may announce to you the word of God." So 10. Then Samuel took a flask of oil and poured it on his head and kissed him and said, "Is it not because the Lord has anointed you commander over his inheritance? When you have departed from me today, you will find 2 men by Rachel's tomb in the territory of Benjamin at Zelzah, and they will say to you, 'The donkeys which you went to look for have been found.' And now your father has ceased caring about the donkeys and is worrying about you, saying, 'What shall I do about my son?' Then you shall go on forward from there and come to the terebinth tree of Tabor. There 3 men going up to God at Bethel will meet you, one carrying 3 young goats, another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a skin of wine. And they will greet you and give you 2 loaves of bread, which you shall receive from their hands. After that you shall come to the hill of God, where the Philistine garrison is. And it will happen, when you have come there to the city, that you will meet a group of prophets coming down from the high place with a stringed instrument, a tambourine, a flute, and a harp before them. And they will be prophesying. Then the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you, and you will prophesy with them and be turned into another man. And let it be, when these signs come to you, that you do as the occasion demands, for God is with you. You shall go down before me to Gilgal, and surely I will come down to you to offer burnt offerings and make sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days you shall wait till I come to you and show you what you should do." So it was, when he had turned his back to go from Samuel, that God gave him another heart, and all those signs came to pass that day. When they came there to the hill, there was a group of prophets to meet him. Then the Spirit of God came upon him, and he prophesied among them. And it happened, when all who knew him formerly saw that he indeed prophesied among the prophets, that the people said to one another, "What is this that has come upon the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets?" Then a man from there answered and said, "But who is their father?" Therefore it became a proverb, "Is Saul also among the prophets?" And when he had finished prophesying, he went to the high place. Then Saul's uncle said to him and his servant, "Where did you go?" So he said, "To look for the donkeys." When he saw that they were nowhere to be found, we went to Samuel. And Saul's uncle said, "Tell me, please, what Samuel said to you." So Saul said to his uncle, "He told us plainly that the donkeys had been found. But about the matter of the kingdom, he did not tell him what Samuel had said." Okay, now, then Samuel called the people together to the Lord at Mizpah and said to the children of Israel, "Thus says the Lord God of Israel, I brought up Israel out of Egypt and delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians and from the hand of all kingdoms and from those who oppressed you. But you have today rejected your God, who himself saved you from all your adversaries and your tribulations, and you have said to him, 'No, set a king over us.' Now therefore present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and by your clans." And when Samuel had caused all the tribes of Israel to come near, the tribe of Benjamin was chosen. When he had caused the tribe of Benjamin to come near by their families, the family of Matri was chosen, and Saul the son of Kish was chosen. But when they sought him, he could not be found. Therefore they inquired of the Lord further, Has the man come here yet? And the Lord answered, There he is, hiding among the equipment. So that's interesting. So they ran and brought him from there. And when he stood among the people, he was taller than any of the people from his shoulders upward. And Samuel said to all the people, Do you see him whom the Lord has chosen, that there is no one like him among all the people? So all the people shouted and said, Long live the king. Then Samuel explained to the people the behavior of royalty, at least in the world, okay, and wrote it in a book and laid it up before the Lord. And Samuel sent all the people away, every man to his house. And Saul also went home to Gibeah, and valiant men went with him, whose hearts God had touched. But some rebels said, How can this man save us? So they despised him and brought him no presents, but he held his peace. Okay, so that is the story of how Saul gets anointed. And then here I'll just run through what some of these things are. We have in 11, Saul gets victory over enemies. That starts up, in 12, Samuel's address at Saul's coronation. So he just gives an address, at his coronation, like it says. It's just, a lot of detail, what happened. It's recounting the history, the same thing there. 13, there's another battle, but Saul starts to get rebellious here, and he starts to do unwise things. That's when it starts to turn, Samuel gets upset at him and says the kingdom will eventually be torn away from you, which it eventually is. Okay, and then in 14, Jonathan comes up. Jonathan is the son of Saul, and he becomes like best friends with David, the future king, and there's a lot of stuff going on with him, warning him and everything about his father Saul. But Jonathan has a victory in the battle with the Philistines. Saul is doing more foolish things, and it just goes on and on. There are all kinds of these kinds of stories here. So it's all that kind of stuff. Down here, Saul is eventually rejected in chapter 15. Here, Saul rejected as king because he just makes too many mistakes and he gets rejected. But he's not obedient to God. He gets rebellious. And in verses 22 to 23, it kind of sums it up right here. So I'll read that. So Samuel said, Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he also has rejected you from being king. So, dun, dun, dun. Right, this is what happens. Okay, and I found it interesting in this chapter 15, 3 times Saul, when he's talking to Samuel, refers to the Lord, and he says, like making a sacrifice or whatever, to your God. 3 times, to your God. It's always your God, your God, your God. And I thought, wait a minute, isn't the Lord his God too? Right? He doesn't take ownership. It's like, it's somebody else's. It's not his God. So I found that language very telling, So anyway, there were problems with Saul. And then in chapter 16 is where David pops up. So I will read that as a new video. So I'll be right back and I'll start 16.